So now what we're going to do is make our own filler. Now this filler is actually quite free, right, because everything about it is free, right? If you've ever got like a nice last bit of your Tamiya extra thin cement left over, and what will probably happen is as you sort of get to the bottom and it gets at a sort of a lowish level, what's going to happen is you go to sort of dip your brush in, you don't seem to be able to get as much of the glue on the end of your brush because your brush isn't long enough. I know a lot of people have gone off and gone, hey, you know what, you can go off and sort of get some pliers or something, you can pull this brush to make it a little bit longer, right? Or what you can do is take that pot, go buy yourself another Tamiya extra thin cement pot, take your pot and get some plastic from your model kit. So I'm just taking our Harrier here, getting some cutters, and what we can do is any sort of spare bits of plastic from the sprue, and what we can do is, and this is already a mixture I've already got made up because it takes quite a bit of time for this stuff to make, shall we say, because basically it's going to dissolve this plastic. Basically all we do is cut it up, I mean as thin as you can sort of do it really. I'm just sort of cutting it, oops, there we go, into just like maybe a mil or two thickness, and it's just a case of just cutting them up and dropping them into our pot just here, right? Nice and easy, sort of pretty sort of free kind of stuff going on here, because we're only going to chuck this stuff out. And what's going to happen is over a period of days, all these little bits of styrene plastic from your sprues will then go all gooey and turn into this, right? So if I just sort of get this out, so as you can see, it'll turn into something like this sort of gooey, just plasticky, melted, dissolved kind of stuff. Now this is good for filling in gaps, which is what we're going to be using this for. Now depending on how much plastic you kind of cut up into here, depends how thick it is or how thin it is, depending on what you want for it. But what's cool about it is, as a filler, which we're going to be using for this job here, I mean actually this is kind of, I've got this to fit rather not too shabby actually, but because we want to actually turn our our glue line here into a recessed panel line, right? I don't want to use things like super glue to glue this in, because if I use super glue, I'll come along and I'll kind of use my P-cutter to make a recessed panel line on that join line, and it kind of cracks and flakes and it doesn't look like a nice recessed panel line. Even fillers, they can be a bit sort of powdery kind of a thing, and they can sort of not look like a nice neat recessed panel line. However, when if you know, this is plastic, this is the styrene plastic that we use. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to paint right on our join line and use this as our filler, right? And by doing that, it just means that we can have so much of a nicer, cleaner recessed panel line actually on a glue line, right? Which should be quite cool. The only downside to this kind of filler is it does take some time to dry, you know. I mean, this has got to, you know, turn back into a nice hard bit of styrene plastic, right? So this is something where we're going to have to put this away for several days probably, because what we don't want to do is when we actually come along to put our recess panel line back in, what's going to happen is you need to make sure things have dried, not just dried but cured, because when we put our P-cutter in there, if it's not dried and cured, it's going to be soft, and then we sort of dig into it and we don't get a nice neat bit of scribing done there. We've got to make sure it dries rock hard, so leave it actually a couple of days to do that, and it should make the whole sanding and rescribing process a hell of a lot better, and should hopefully turn what is potentially an eyesore for all Harriers out there into something that's going to look as if this is all going to be one piece, rather than it actually having a join, as you see on all the Harriers out there. Even the Hazukawa kit has that kind of a thing going on with it there. May even do a little back bit here as well, because I'm feeling a bit of steppage going on there, and I want to sort of get a nice recessed panel on there also. So that's sort of how to make some of your own filler, kind of free if you sort of think about it, because it's just a little bit of leftover Tamex thin cement and leftover sprues.